Let's go on to a very troubling piece of news out of Russia. A prominent pro-Russian military blogger, Vladin Tatarsky, whose real name was Maxim Fomin, has been killed by a blast in a cafe in St. Petersburg where he was giving a talk. We have a little bit of video from this incident. Just a warning, it is obviously, it's a scene from a war where basically there's a massive explosion in the middle of St. Petersburg. Let's put this up there on the screen. We'll play it for the audience. For those who are just watching, you can see how the cafe just gets completely blown out. And yeah, I mean, he was killed by the explosion. We don't know quite a bit about the details, Krystal, about any collateral damage or other, but clearly it was a targeted terrorist attack. Now, in terms of the reports about who and how he received the bomb, it appears to be, or at least the reports coming out of Russia, and always take these with a grain of salt, is that a woman brought the bomb to a meeting and hid it inside of a figurine, presenting it to Tatarsky as a gift before he was then blown up and killed. But
figurine of himself, by the way.
Yeah, figurine of himself, which is, that's pretty savage, brutal. So in terms of the details and others, I know that you've been speaking to our friend Igor, who is inside of Russia and who can analyze some of the Russian media for us. What does he have to say?
Yeah, so shout out to Yegor Kotkin. You can follow him on, I think he's got a Substack and certainly a Patreon. So this analysis all comes direct from him. So in terms of who this dude was, he was one of these very prominent military bloggers. He had over 500,000 subscribers, I guess they call him on Telegram. And he was one of the more sort of like violent psychopathic of the military bloggers. Now, according to Yegor, there are people who are more ghoulish in his words, but they're almost all anonymous.
Yeah,
so he's the most prominent, known, outspoken, very aggressive military blogger. He's one of these who, he's not a direct Kremlin mouthpiece, so he has been critical from the right, like he at times of the Kremlin, like he wants more brutality in the war, more violence in the war, etc. He's actually from the Donbass region, and before the most recent revolution in Ukraine and the start of this latest separatist war, he was actually in prison for robbery in eastern Ukraine. So that's kind of his backstory here. Listen, it is very likely that this was done by Ukrainians in a very similar manner as what we saw, a previous outspoken pro-war figure who was killed about a year ago, and there really is no alternative explanation for the way that she was blown up. It's most likely that it was the Ukrainians. You can't rule out that it was the FSB because this guy has been critical.
Right.
Now, the reason that Yegor says he is more suspicious of the Ukrainians is because it's not just you took this guy out. It's you took him out in a cafe with a lot of other pro-war. He was there giving a talk to a lot of other, pro-war Russians who came to hear what he had to say. So you're not only killing him, you're killing, maiming, injuring, and potentially killing other bystanders who are pro-war. And you're doing it in a cafe in St. Petersburg, which is the birthplace of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of symbolism here that suggests it's probably more likely to be the Ukrainians than FSB. But again, you don't want to entirely rule it out. So that's kind of the way that he is viewing this whole situation, which in a lot of ways makes a lot of sense.
Of course it makes sense. And we already know, that look, most of us can already guess. 3 months from now, we'll see an anonymously sourced New York Times article where it's just like, well, it might have been elements of the Ukrainian state, but Zelensky never knew about it, and U.S. involvement was never there. The CIA, of course, had nothing to do with it. I don't know if any of that is true. It is troubling whenever this stuff is happening. Just imagine if somebody was killed in downtown, like New York City or in downtown Washington, people would be outraged and up in arms, and they would really want to know and get to the bottom of it. Now, of course, look, like they are waging a brutal war in Ukraine. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. What I'm saying, though, is that all of this is just embroiled in a situation in which we may not be able to control. That's really what the dangerous part of it is. Going back to the assassination of Dugin's daughter on Russian soil, the bombing of the Crimean Bridge, and now here the bomb blast in downtown St. Petersburg in a cafe in a Sunday. I love how Reuters phrased it too. The second assassination on Russian soil of a figure closely associated with the war in Ukraine. As you also said, I did some more reading. One of the things is who would kill him inside of Russia. Like you said, sure, it could be the FSB, but the FSB, by and large, they're allowed. in general, in Russian society, they seem to be okay with allowing criticism from the right, from the more the war wing. So they can be like, look, we're being responsible. See, like all these crazies want us to do this. We're not actually doing that. From the left, though, there are all these horrific stories of anti-war protesters and college students getting sentenced to years in Russian prison for like retweeting criticism of the war. So you can see which way law enforcement is. It's almost entirely geared towards the anti-war movement, not towards the pro movement. Initially, when the Dugin assassination happened, I've speculated. I was like, look, it's possible, you know, like maybe they wanted to take him out. But, you know, as all the intel and the reporting came forward, it looked pretty clear that it was a Ukrainian attack. And, you know, given the circumstances, I guess you can't rule it out. At the same time, look, you know, these movements, these have internecine, stupid conflicts all the time. You know, these revolutionary type paramilitary organizations where they kill each other. So you can't rule that out either. But troubling nonetheless, because you can bet that the Russian government already, you know, they're already pointing the finger, at least some figures are, at Ukraine. And many of them, and especially inside of the Donbass where the war is going on, they're all like it was Ukraine's fault. And this guy was already from there. So they could have used it as a retaliatory attack.
Yeah. The last detail here, even the cafe, like so much of this seems to have been very intentionally chosen for its symbolism, which is what led Yegor to feel more suspicious that it was the Ukrainians than any of the potential other explanations. Another piece of the symbolism here is this cafe apparently has ties to the leader of the Wagner group. And so, you know, if it was the FSB who wanted to assassinate this guy, you'd more likely do like poison, you know, there wouldn't be this blowback with, because this was obviously directed at him, but the audience was a target in a way as well. So would you really be targeting your own civilians who are supportive of your war effort? That can instill fear in the broader population of even, you know, like going to any of these talks and, you know, doing sort of like public support for the Russian war effort here. So those are some of the pieces that make it not make so much sense from the FSB potential perspective. But again, you just really never can be 100% sure.
Yeah, exactly right.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now. And Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us. And if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.